Few sneakers have reached the dizzying heights of the Nike Air Max 1. But did you know about the crazy hype they got in Europe in the 2000s? Sure, Air Max sneakers have enjoyed enduring popularity around the world, but between 2000 and 2012, they became especially central to cultural trends happening all across Europe. So keep watching as we explore the history of European fascination with the Air Max 1. But first, let's take a look at their origins in the 80s. The sneakers we now call the Air Max 1 were first released in 1987. And of course, they were just called Nike Air Max at the time, cause this was well before the countless other versions that made their way to markets. So what made these sneakers stand out when there were so many options available? For starters, Air Max technology really set them apart. In case you don't know, this is basically that inflated midsole that we all know and love. Coming up with the idea to pump urethane into their shoes was a game changer for Nike, cause it gave you a bit of pep in your step and cushioned your joints from damage while you ran. They weren't the first shoes marketed for runners, but it's safe to say they were the best ones to come out during that time. Nike had been experimenting with shoes optimized for athletes since 1974, when they made the Nike Waffle Trainer with its special patterned sole that gave you some extra traction. The Air Max 1 took things to a whole nother level, and the rest is history. Here's how the sneakers took Europe by storm. The 2000s Euro hype. By the year 2000, Nike had released at least a dozen wildly popular variants of the Nike Air Max. The OG was now called the Air Max 1, and it continues to be a big deal among sneaker enthusiasts to this day. Throughout the 90s, Air Max sneakers drove fans into a literal frenzy. Over in Japan, the Air Max 95 became such an obsession that some crazy people started mugging owners to get their hands on a pair. Now, the European craze was a lot more peaceful than what went down in Japan. While they didn't exactly hit the mainstream until later, certain European niche cultures gobbled up each new model that came out, starting with street racers. In fact, Air Max 1s became so ubiquitous in European street racing culture that some saw them as a stereotype, and this isn't the only subculture they penetrated either. Probably the biggest boost to the Air Max 1's popularity came from the hip-hop community. The rising music genre was taking over the streets everywhere from London to Milan, but nothing compared to their reception in Amsterdam. The Dutch city has always been a hub for hip-hop culture in Europe, but while folks in London lined up to buy Air Max 95s and the Milanese preferred Air Max 97s, the people of Amsterdam couldn't get enough of the old school Air Max 1. You have to understand, most sneaker fans had moved past the Air Max 1 by this point. Hip-hop culture started in New York, but rappers in the Big Apple were more about the Air Force 1. The Air Max 1 craze in the Netherlands happened at around the same time, which led to the Dutch streetwear brand Pata starting their long-standing partnership with Nike. In 2022, Nike and Pata collaborated to celebrate the Air Max 1's 35th anniversary in style, marking their 5th partnership since the brand first launched in 2004, with a bunch of new models to take you back to the past. Make sure to check out our Pata documentary as well. Yet, without further delay, let's check out some versions of the Air Max 1 that were all the rage in Europe, but stayed under the radar in the rest of the world. Number 6. Nike Air Max 1 Huffquake. Nike's collabs with the San Francisco-based streetwear brand Huff has produced some of the most iconic sneakers in their collection, and their take on the Air Max 1 is no different. Released in 2007, these sneakers appealed to the growing skateboarding community across Europe, but this limited edition pair is actually quite unique as far as Nike and Huff partnerships go. The textured industrial black only has a bit of lime green to liven things up, which just goes to show European fans love themselves some low-key shades. With a retail price of 140 euros on release day, these sneakers can cost at least 350 euros nowadays. Number 5. Air Max 1 Shima Shima. Here we have a pair of shoes that represents a unique aspect of Air Max 1 culture in Europe, the ubiquity of Japanese design. The Air Max 1 Shima Shima was released in 2003, and it's one of the oldest silhouettes that was inspired by Japanese aesthetics, and you guessed it, a restrained color palette played a big role here. The mix of brown and taupe arguably launched the craze that defined a whole generation of European sneaker fans. The Shima Shima has been re-released in 2023 and is now available for as little as €80, but we've seen older pairs go for between €250 and €750 as they are extremely hard to find. Number 4. Nike Air Max 1 Size Safari. A solid pair of Air Max 1s has to pay tribute to the original, and that's just what Nike did with this pair. Combining sturdy leather with impressive ventilation through the mesh, these sneakers combine form and function in a way that few other pairs do. The all-important Air sole in the midsection ties these shoes back to the Air Max 1s, and the modern features like the ventilation system seriously up the ante. With black swoosh branding and the Nike Air branding tastefully included on the tongue and heel, it's hard to find sneakers that epitomize the European fascination with Air 1s as much as these. Unsurprisingly, a pair won't come cheap, usually costing about €450 these days. Number 3. Air Max 1 Master. Nike's collaborations with Parah helped put the brand on the map, and it inspired a whole new generation of sneakers in the line. Case in point, the Air Max 1 Master. It can be easy to paint the whole Euro craze as a random trend, but the Air Max 1 Master proves that its influence extended far beyond Europe's borders. These sneakers are a tribute to a bunch of other iconic Air Max pairs, including the Parah Chlorophylls, the OG Reds and Blues, the Kid Robots, the Beast Pack, the Atmos Safari, and many more. Expect to pay around €750 for a pair. Number 2. Nike Air Max 1 by Atmos Vitek. Nike's always pointed out how high-tech its sneakers are, and this helped build hype during the 2000s Euro craze. With a name like Vitek, this pair of Nike Air Max 1s was always going to be a big hit, and some have even called them one of the best sneaker pairs ever. You'll start noticing a pattern here, because the Japanese brand Atmos was crucial to bringing these shoes to life. It perfectly captures the 2000s sneaker zeitgeist with everything from earthy gray and black tones, as well as the extra swoosh on the side toe embroidered in metallic gold. The F&F version that dropped a few years later is legendary, but even for a public-facing pair, you'll have to fork over at least €1,200. Number 1. Nike Air Max 1 AMS Parah Amsterdam. It's time, folks. We've covered the classics and the modern takes. We've told you about how central Amsterdam has been to European sneaker culture, and now we're going to talk about a pair that combines everything the continent loved about Air Max 1s. The name here comes from a true cult legend in Amsterdam, Piet Parah, an artist with a mystique and grandeur in equal measure. He helped Parah and Nike make some stunning sneakers like the Air Max 1 Parah Cherrywood we talked about in another video, as well as the inspiration behind the Air Max 1 Master. However, the world's biggest sneaker brand partnered with him directly for this pair. Released in 2005, the Nike Air Max 1 AMS Parah Amsterdam features all the iconic elements of his art style. Colored mostly in rich burgundy, these sneakers also have a teal speckling at the heel with a bold bright red popping on the tongue and the toe. It's actually quite surprising that such a vibrant pair made it big in Europe, but just reveals how diverse sneaker culture was at the time. Rumor has it that just a couple of hundred of these bad boys were ever made, and just one of them will cost you somewhere in the region of €6,500 right now. So there you have it, folks. Which of these sneakers do you want the most? Let us know in the comments below. That's all for now. See ya.